Hi, I'm Daniella Santana, and you are watching Coffee and Business with Dany Santana, where I share the most inspiring business stories from Asia. Today's episode is sponsored by Residence G Shenzhen, which is a lifestyle hotel and serviced apartment in the heart of Nanshan, minutes away from dining and shopping hotspots like Huffington City, Seaward, and Coastal City. Its central location is perfect for accessing all major business and entertainment areas, with 178 spacious rooms and apartments from hotel room, studio, one bedroom to three bedroom apartments. The hotel boasts a range of facilities: a clubhouse with restaurant and a bar, an entire floor dedicated to sports and wellness facilities, and an outdoor terrace with an amazing panoramic view. Have you ever thought about creating a sustainable business in the fashion industry? Well, our guest today will show us how she got started, raised capital, and not only that, how she's measuring happiness inside the Chinese factories. You heard me. Marianne is an award-winning writer, speaker, and CEO of No Data. She writes for Huffington Post, Virgin, and many sustainable brands around the world. She was named Young Entrepreneur to watch in the UK, and she has been living and working in China for 2 years. She's all about ethics in fashion and will share with us how she got started and how she found global investors that believed in her. Marianne, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you here today.
So glad to be here.
Nice. Do you want to tell a story how we met each other?
Yeah, so we met on LinkedIn, right? Your
Right.
favourite social network.
Right.
When I first came to China, I remember you reached out to me about one of your events. Yeah, and it was quite funny because I had no idea what WeChat was at that point. I had no idea how to use it, and you were like, you've got to pay me for the ticket. And I was like, have no idea, how do I make a payment online? And of course, everything is online in China. So I quickly had to come into like the digital world, get rid of cash, and get used to it.
Amazing. So was that like a big difference from where you were living before moving to China?
Yeah,
where
definitely.
everything is basically done online,
Yeah,
including
yeah.
wallets.
Yeah, exactly. But now I love it. Like, it's super simple. Everything is so convenient. So yeah, thanks for teaching me some of the first lessons in China, Dani.
Amazing. Yeah, I think LinkedIn is a great platform
Yeah.
to be today, and I just meet incredible people. That's basically my main place to meet, to do
Yeah.
business, and to just connect with amazing people over there.
Yeah, like me.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about what your business is and how you got started with that?
Yeah, so I'm the founder of No Data, and we have a worker happiness platform to track the happiness of factory workers in China. So we're working with some of the world's biggest brands right now and their suppliers, so it's a really exciting point. And I started this business because I was just so shocked by the lack of information we have about how our clothes are made, who's making them, and the conditions they're made in.
And I love the fact that you are tracking on how happy the employees are inside the factory. And so far, I haven't seen any company doing that type of survey or questions and
Yeah.
business. Are you the only one in this business right now?
Yeah, we're the first movers in the world doing this.
Wow, amazing! Go boss!
Exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah, only up for changing the world. So really want to scale this up in a very, very big way.
Tell us a little bit more about how your business operates these days.
Yeah, so we've got a team in Hong Kong, Shenzhen, and the UK. So we work from these different bases to develop our technology and also connect with brands in the UK and the USA, and then factories in China and Southeast Asia as well. So yeah, it's a really good base here to be based and grow the business.
Great.
Yeah.
And do the factories in China, they get happy to see you coming in there and checking how are they doing business, if the employees are satisfied or not? Where are usually their feedback?
Yeah, well, it's been really tough culturally to shift people's mindset away from, just producing goods with no, consideration for potentially how they're made. And so when we first visit a factory, it's a very different kind of scenario for them. But they know now that all the major brands in the world are only sourcing from factories that can prove they're responsible,
Right.
especially in the ways they treat their employees. So it's a no-brainer. If they want to make more money, they've got to know how their employees feel.
Right. And what were your biggest challenges starting this business?
So many challenges, like as we chatted about before, like day by day, so many challenges. It's just never ending. And I think the biggest challenge for me though, over all of it, is keeping focus. And especially when you're starting out, there's so many different things you could be doing, opportunities popping up left, right and center, people asking for your time, people wanting to build different things than maybe you thought at first. And I think it's really good to be open to those opportunities, but also to know where your focus is. Starting small, starting in a niche, and then deciding to scale it out. And I think overall that's the toughest thing to do.
Yeah, especially here in China, there's always some opportunities, a new person that you meet on networking events or investors, and people wanting to do different businesses and different things with you. I think it's a really, really tough one to keep your focus here in China, which is a great thing in a sense, because you always have new opportunities if your business is not doing well and you want to change and you want to try something new. But at the same time, there is always the next shiny object, and it's kind of hard to keep yourself on track, right?
Yeah, especially by living in the fastest growing city in the world and being in the tech sector, where you see people coming up with new startups every second, and you just want to go and speak to them and get involved, which is really inspiring. And that's what I love about China, like the fast pace. But also it's important to just step back and realize where your strengths are and what you want to do.
Exactly. And what do you think about the startup scenario right now in China comparing to the UK, for example?
I think it's absolutely fascinating and really exciting. And I think in the West, we just have no kind of awareness of what's really happening. And in Shenzhen in particular, you just see startups, growing very quickly, bursting out of nowhere. And very quickly you have this huge mass of people around them, which I think you can't really do in the West so easily. So I'm really excited for the future. And I also want to see, what new innovations and inventions are going to come out of this.
Right, and part of doing business in China is to understand the culture.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of companies do miss that still to the day of today.
Yeah.
They come here and they have no idea what they are doing, because the culture itself is really different than the Western. So what is your number one tip for people that are trying to start a business in China, or maybe they want to do business with China?
Yeah. So being a foreigner in China starting a business is initially tough. The number one thing I'd say is listening. Coming to China, I just had to listen a lot and learn about the way that they work. China is a place where you really have to adopt the ways that they work. And by listening, I was able to really understand why are they doing things that way or that way. And it was really new to me at first. And even to some ways, frustrating in terms of, how can I work best in this culture? But yeah, I've come to really love and find fascinating all the parts of tradition that make it the way it is. From understanding that people have to take a break at 12 o'clock midday, and have a rest. For me initially, that was just so different. But it's something that I had to just listen to and understand why. And I think once you really take the time to understand why people do it, you can really actually engage with people and run a business successfully here.
Amazing. I know that you write for Huffington Post. How did you get to write for them?
Yeah, well, about 7 years ago, I started a blog on sustainable fashion. At the time, there wasn't many people writing about it. So I never saw myself as a writer really, but I say I became like an accidental journalist because I was writing about this stuff and no one else was. So I got approached by these kind of outlets like Huffington Post, and they asked me to write for them and write some, opinion pieces and also interviews that I've done in the past. So yeah, but that's been part of my entrepreneurial journey, to finding out as much as I can about this space, speaking to everyone I can, traveling the world, getting to the heart of the issues. So yeah, it's been really great to write about it and share what I've learned.
Right. And why fashion?
This is a great question. I think that fashion is our global language. So I'm fascinated with languages and different cultures. And as soon as you see someone, no matter what language you speak or where you're from, you've got an image of them in your mind based on what they're wearing. And I was like, wouldn't that be so powerful if we could use that for good? So as soon as I see you, I know if you care about the environment, or I know if you care about, social impact, the people who made your clothes. And I think it's a really relevant industry for everyone. And especially the millennial generation, that we need to engage with sustainability so much. Right. And when they see catwalks, when they see brands, when they see labels, we engage with it. And how can we use that for good?
Interesting. You also raised some capital for your company.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of startups and entrepreneurs, they struggle so much with trying to raise capital, trying to bring investors on board. What tip would you give to those entrepreneurs and startups that are trying to raise some serious money for their business?
Yeah. Well, I'd say overall, actually, I really enjoy it. I think it's really fun to just meet different people who are interested in what you're doing and share what you're doing. And actually, through raising investment, you learn a lot, you get a lot of feedback. And so ultimately, when you go and meet potential investors, ask them for their feedback, ask them what you can be doing differently, ask them what they want to see. Don't just assume that you know all the answers. And I think when you're choosing investors, choose people who know more than you about what you want to do, It's about passion at the end of the day. Like, you've really got to convince them that you are going to see this through no matter what. And my concept has pivoted quite a lot since when I originally raised investment. And ultimately, people invest in people. So if you can show that, I'm committed to this and I'm going to see it through, people will invest in that. And they invest in, determination, grit, willpower.
Amazing. I also believe passion is everything. I don't think you should start a business if you're not passionate about it.
I don't think you can.
Right? And I know a lot of people do disagree with that, but I think this is just my motto. It's like, there must be a passion. I just love to put passion in just everything I do.
Yeah.
And I think that's why my brand is successful, because I put so much passion, so much energy, and people can see it. People can tell when you are passionate about something, when you really love what you're doing, and when you are not, when you're just doing it for the money.
Yeah, that's what I noticed when I first met you. Like, I feel like because you're doing something that you absolutely love, it just radiates to everyone else in the room.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it really does. And I feel like that's what gets investors on board, right? When they meet you and they can tell that this is what you're meant to do.
Right. So it's important to meet investors face to face and just put your hearts out and tell them what you're about, and don't be shy.
Yeah.
And just be passionate about what you're trying to pitch.
Yeah, and I think that's something which is really great about China. The fact it's all based on relationships,
Exactly.
Guangxi, right?
The Guangxi, yes.
So yeah, you've got to meet people in person, get out there, get to know them. And I think that's what about China takes time as well. You have to take the time to get to know people. You have to meet them on a personal level and chat about things that aren't even work related. And then you build trust, and then you get people on board with you.
Yeah, the very Chinese way. And I think this works as well for in the Western world as well, right? It's not only about just trying to make the business, it's also about building a relationship, making friends, and being able to chit-chat about other things that are not really business related, and see if you actually have a connection, and if you can if you both have the same values and so on. So what actually are your values in terms of business and life?
Yeah, good question. Because I've really been reflecting on my values as we approach this new year, and even linked to what we were just saying, like one of my top values is community. So I really think we have to change the perception about how entrepreneurship is like a solo venture. And I think what I've really learned over the past year especially is that you have to do it in community. Right. You have to find the right people who are going to grow this with you, especially if you want to do things on a massive scale. like your growth is only as big as your people, right? So you really have to find the right people who care so much about what you do that they're willing to, you know, get up in the morning, you know, work however hard they need to get the job done. And this is quite hard to come by, but something which I think links back to why I made so much effort in the beginning to putting myself in the community of sustainable fashion and making sure that I was, you know, known within that community so that those people would come to me. So that's community is one of the top things as well for me.
Right. So your strategy for finding those people are basically putting yourself in those situations where most likely you'll be able to meet like-minded people.
Yeah. And
Great.
I think that's the thing when you first come to China, like there's so many activities, so many people,
Yes.
so many things going on. And actually you just really need to narrow down, like, who would buy this? Or like, who is my target, even team member? And how can I meet that person? Where would they be? Where would I go if I was that person, you know?
Right. So for example, now, if you actually, I know China is super easy to meet people in a way. There are tons of networking events and a lot of things happening. To start a business, would that be easier to do that in China or in the UK today?
Today?
Yes.
It's a good question actually, because I also think what would be more fun, right?
Right.
And for me, having fun is the most important thing, you know? And actually, I think the challenge of setting up a business outside my home country, in somewhere like China, I've learned an incredible amount and, you know, enjoyed really doing it. And I think when you look at entrepreneurship, think about how you can grow. And I could set up a business in the UK and it'd be great, and I still am kind of doing that. But I think coming to China, you just learn and challenge yourself so much, and there's massive opportunity actually. And so, you know, China is the future of many technologies, innovations, economies. So it's just so exciting.
Yeah, I think China is the place to be now for business. If you are starting any type of business here, I'm sure you can be really successful if you learn the culture, if you learn how to do business here, and you spend some time here understanding how the locals think. And I think it's a great opportunity and a great environment for any, especially the youngest entrepreneurs that want to create something for their lives. I think this is the number one place to be right now, especially if you're young. Do you have a favorite book, and why?
So I don't have a favourite book as such, but I think I have like a favourite type of book, which I would say is biographies, autobiographies. I just love finding out someone's story and seeing how they went from like A to B, like the whole life history, you know? I just love seeing like all the interconnections and complexities of like how this person got where they are. And I think all of us have such unique stories. So like some top biographies I love. Recently did read Elon Musk's biography, which I think is really good insight. Also Gordon Ramsay.
I love him too.
Yeah, not your typical kind of entrepreneur as such, but I just love chefs in general and their whole, you know, commitment and determination. And his story is really powerful. And also, I really love the Letters of Vincent van Gogh, which is a really interesting book that makes you really reflect on how entrepreneurs to me are like artists. You know, like we start with a blank canvas and you have to fill it in, make people understand what you're trying to communicate, what your idea is. And I believe our role is really creative, you know? Right. Like having to think of things differently every single morning, every single afternoon, you know? And that book's just a really interesting insight into the mind of an artist. And,
right.
Yeah.
And how do you keep motivated with so much work, a lot of things going on, new culture, new country? You also have to work long hours because you're dealing with the overseas market as well. So like most of us, we work during Chinese working hours, but then we also need to be up during the Western time. So how do you keep yourself with energy and motivated to do all this great work that you're doing?
Yeah, I think it can be really tough because the life of an entrepreneur, like, it can easily become too intense. And yeah, it's a big learning lesson for me when I let my work kind of take over, you know, and I was working between those different time zones and, you know, being up early in the morning, late at night doing phone calls, and just realised that I wasn't being productive. And I think it's so easy to get sucked into that atmosphere especially with startup culture today in Shenzhen, especially, of
Right.
working so intensely, not taking breaks, not taking rest. And actually, it's really important you give yourself that time to think and be creative. So I keep myself motivated by giving myself that rest time. I'm trying a new thing, which is not working after 8 p.m.
Right.
So I'll let you know how that goes. And also, the thing I do, which really keeps me motivated, is I keep a note at the back of my journal of all the good things that people have said about me. So whenever I feel low or like demotivated, I just look back and I'm like, wait, Dany said that about me. Dany said, what was it you said? I was fun, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to write that down.
Yeah.
And when I feel low, I'm going to be like, look, Dany said that, must be true, right? So I just remind myself that I am that person. And you just have to keep giving yourself that positive reinforcement that I am, whatever it is.
I so love that, and yeah, we were discussing about that earlier, and I would definitely start doing that because I get a lot of comments, but I never keep them, and I think it's just a great way for you to keep track on of your values and of the things that you're doing and your end goal, and also of your mission. So if you are receiving those comments, you must be doing something right.
Yeah.
So I just love this idea, and that's something I will start doing as well as of today. I will start getting those comments and put them on a book, or maybe just print out and put it in a few places in my house. For
Let
those,
me know how it goes.
Yeah, I'll take a picture and send you. For those,
Marianne's quote better be up there.
Exactly. For those days when you don't feel like getting up the bed, doing anything, or just feeling down and a little bit blue and feeling like nothing's going right, which sometimes is just on our head. We just are overwhelmed. Usually when we are facing new challenges and growing, that's when we have those thoughts that are not very encouraging, but this is a great solution. I will try it and I will let you know how it goes.
Yeah, let me know.
Okay. Marianne, you have been in China working on this project now for about 2 years, right? What is the transformation that you have seen on the factories that you have audited from before till now?
Yeah, well, the basic transformation is that factories know that by improving the happiness of workers, they make more money.
Right.
That's our really basic argument. And they see that internally by reduced labour turnover. Some factories, we've reduced labour turnover by like 20%, up to 40%, which is massive, especially since now we're in Chinese New Year, when loads of workers just, don't come back after Chinese New Year to their factories. And also we're seeing an increase in productivity. It's obvious for you and me that, if we're happier, we're more productive at work. But now we're actually proving that in the factory environment. We're also seeing workers produce more quality work. Waste is obviously a massive cost for these factories and a cost to the environment. So, yeah, it's been really amazing to see the transformation also for the workers. So they're understanding that, there's different things that affect me at work that can make me perform better. So ultimately I can earn more as well, or I can increase my skills. And it's also making a lot of sense for factories because they can attract the big brands that we're working with. So we're inviting more factories to our platform right now that want to be a part of, the future of how business will work.
So if a factory wants to join your program, what do they need to do? How do they contact to you? And what are the things that they need to do in order to participate into that?
So we've made it super simple and scalable. So factories just need to visit our website, tell us how many workers they have, and from there we'll give them a call and they can set up the app.
Great.
So workers can just start using it tomorrow.
Amazing. So we will leave the website in the notes below, so you guys can visit Marianne's website and apply for it. All right, so the factory signed up at your website to participate in the program. And what are the next steps now?
Yeah, so basically the factory signs up and we go in and we can train the workers, we can train the managers on how to use the system. We can also send in experts within productivity and manufacturing who really understand their unique setup within the factory, because every factory is so different. And then basically we connect those factories with brands. So every factory has a profile where they can, show off the fact that they are being responsible as employers. And basically brands can see those profiles and decide, what they want to help the factory with, or if they want to work with the factory. So it's very much a new way for factories to engage with brands in the long term.
That's amazing. So it's basically, it not only helps the factory to have a better environment and happy employees, but also help them to do more business.
Yeah, exactly.
Connecting them with the buyers, with big brands in the Western world. I think I love this idea.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no reason why not to sign up for it.
Exactly, Dani. You need to say that again and again, because this is an absolute no-brainer. It's a win-win-win for the worker, factory and brand.
Lovely.
And going back to our core motivation for doing this, the worker has a voice and is protected. And that is not meant in a way that, any way negative. It's meant actually to benefit everyone. So the factory knows what's in their employee's mind. And you know as well as any business owner that people is the most important thing.
Exactly.
The most important resource for any business. And if you don't know how to motivate your people or what makes them productive, you're not going to get the most out of them.
Right.
And you're losing money.
Right. And especially here in China where the employees, they are changing jobs constantly because they are always looking for a better company, for higher salaries. You need to find a way to keep your employee happy. Otherwise, you can keep up with your quality, with your manufacturing procedures, because you are always having people changing, and it's a never-ending process.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And factories are in a really tough position right now, where wages are increasing, qualities of lifestyle are increasing, and workers are demanding more. And they're deciding to go with factories where they can have a better quality of life.
Right. I have seen companies where the receptionist would change like every month. And it's amazing. So I would go there and I would see a new person in there every month, and I'm like, what's happening?
It's really tough.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. And this is happening in, I believe, in every Chinese company. And here's the thing, the bosses are telling, oh, it's so hard to find good staff, it's really hard to keep people here. But here's the thing, they do not give that quality of a nice workspace for the people to work. And of course you're going to leave, and you're going to be looking for other things and better environment and higher salaries, because you also need to pay bills and survive, right?
Exactly. So and that's a really interesting transition in China, this transition towards even Shenzhen, which used to be hugely manufacturing based. We're now transitioning into higher quality lifestyles in many ways. And people in China are demanding that as well.
And it's not only Shenzhen, it's just everywhere in China right now. It's now especially Shenzhen becoming the new Silicon Valley. A lot of tech startups, a lot of things happening here, and the cost of life as well. So the companies, they need to start caring more about their employees, otherwise they will have no good people working for them.
And it's all happening so quickly that if factories don't jump on board with this shift now, we're going to get left behind. Especially when you look at other countries that are also competing with China right now for manufacturing too.
Exactly. And do you have any criteria that you check in advance for these factories that want to work with you?
I'd say my top criteria is that they want to grow. I think they have to be in the mindset of, this is going to grow my business, and have to be ready for that. They have to be willing to want to grow with brands and their changing needs. That's the only thing. Otherwise, we're up for working with factories of all kinds of different sizes, different, ownership, industries.
A lot of entrepreneurs that come to China, they always have some funny story of how they landed here. I would love to hear from you what your story is.
Well, I first came to Hong Kong 7 years ago now to study in the University of Hong Kong as an exchange student. And that was really random, actually. That was kind of on a coin toss, but a kind of logical decision where I was like, look, I want to do something crazy. And I was just like, now or never, and I'm quite known for saying the phrase YOLO. And so I was kind of like, look, I'm 19 at the time. When else in my life can I just go to the other side of the world, So I got up and left, but it was such a crazy mind shift for me. I literally took a year out of my degree, it wasn't really planned, and I arrived in Hong Kong, and I was literally thought I was on a different planet, because I grew up in, no, genuinely, because I grew up in the countryside where the only thing you could see was sheep.
All
Nothing.
right.
Like literally, imagine, like not even houses, just literally sheep.
And then you came straight to Hong Kong.
Yeah. Straight to Hong Kong. And I remember, like, I arrived late at night and I didn't really see much. And I woke up in the morning, I opened the curtain, there were like thousands of windows looking back at me. And I was literally just like, what have I done? Why have I done this?
What plan is that?
Yeah. And I was literally just in shock for like a good week. But I decided to just go for it, you know? And then after that year, I was back in the UK for a bit, working in entrepreneurship and different companies. And then basically I managed to, you know, switch into doing this full time and raise some investment. And I was basically just, you know, told that if you want to find out, you know, the reality of the situation in the factories and what's really happening, I just have to get out there. So I took a one-way flight to China. I ended up living in China for a year.
Wow.
So yeah, I just ended up visiting like loads of factories from like North to South China, traveling around, and just realized I had to be at the heart of the situation to really understand the problem I was trying to solve.
I love your mindset. You know, I'm also a person that goes constantly to factories. And to be honest, there are not that many women in China, foreigner women, that do go to a factory on a regular basis. Unfortunately, the majority of people going to the factories today, it's men. There are not many women dealing with manufacturing still here. It takes a lot of courage for a woman to leave her home country and land in China without speaking a word of Chinese, and let alone doing business here. Where do you think that this drive comes from?
Yeah. Well, I want to say that I've been very lucky coming over to China, that I've had the support of angel investors who have networks out here in businesses already. So I'm incredibly grateful for the help they've given me to set up and start this and have support. And from there, I've just really jumped in and taken all the opportunities and spoke to everyone I can in the factory environment. You know, the owner, manager, line managers, workers, going for lunch with the workers, going for dinner, learning Chinese to the point that I can actually have conversations with the workers about how they're feeling and what's really on their mind. Just experiencing the true China mindset for itself is what you have to do here. Like, you really can't survive here without speaking the language.
Right. You started entrepreneurship at the age of 18. Do you have anybody in your family who used to be an entrepreneur, or how did you get this inspiration from?
Yeah. Well, it really just came for a passion to want to impact things on a big scale. And my first business, age 18, was also to do with social impact. And I think that word social impact means different things to different people, but I mean a fundamental shift in the whole way business is done, which we're right in the middle of. And I really don't think people are aware that we're in the middle of the biggest shift in history in terms of all businesses have to change the way they operate. We can no longer operate in this way where we're not sustainable and we're not ethical, simply because resources are limited, but also because that does not maximize efficiency. And I quickly realized there was a big opportunity for my generation to be a part of that. So I'm really driven by having a massive impact, really human level. How can we improve the quality of life that people are having?
Right. You were in India for a while as well. Was that the reason why you wanted to be in India? To have a look on how do they work, how sustainable they are, and so on?
Yeah, so India was my first insight into factories. And I really went out there with, you know, basic understanding of the space, and within a week prototyped a whole business. So getting into the tech sector in these emerging markets is really exciting. The ability to just build things very quickly, and the attitude of, you know, live or die to some extent. You know, we're not building businesses because it's, you know, looks great and it's a fancy thing to do. It's like, live or die, you have to make money, you have to start a business, and actually being surrounded by that atmosphere is really inspiring.
Right, and what are your plans now for the future? What's coming up?
Exciting things, Dany. So many exciting things.
Tell us. We're curious to know.
Well, 2019 is going to be a big year in terms of changing the world. And I genuinely mean that not in an imaginative way, but in a very tangible way. Because we're getting the world's biggest brands engaged. We're getting suppliers engaged. And we're going to see this take off in a very big way, not just in China, but other countries from Asia to the West.
So you're going global now?
Yeah, it's always been global since day one, but especially global now. Yeah.
All right. What else is new?
What else is new? Well, we've got this amazing office space that we're in.
Oh yeah, okay, you were talking about it earlier.
So we've moved to this office called the Mills in Hong Kong, which is a renovated textile factory. Absolutely beautifully, designed in architecture, owned by the Li and Fung Group. So it's a really amazing space full of textile startups. So all kind of people in tech and fashion and lifestyle, all in one place. So yeah, I'm really enjoying working from there, and also having easy access to Shenzhen.
Lovely. I'll go visit you guys there
Yeah,
someday.
please do, Dani. You should do an event there.
Yeah, why not? Let's plan it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Right, it's been a lovely time here with you. Thank you so much for joining us and being the show today, Marianne.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dani. It's been really fun.
Yeah, I hope to catch up soon, and I will definitely visit your workspace and check it out.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, amazing. Thank you. Alright guys, I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Coffee and Business with Dany Santana. Now, Marianne and I would love to hear from you guys if you have a plan to start a business in China, and if you do, what would be the business? Now remember to follow us to have insights and inspiration about China business.